Calaroga Shark Media.
Crazy one today, and I am fascinated by the jousting. The Montreal Comedy Festival kicks off tonight, but what do you know? The New York Comedy Festival dropped their lineup to steal the press spotlight, and there's a massive Riyadh Festival, which includes Bruce Hills. Who's that? That's the guy that used to run the Montreal Comedy Festival. All this news out at once, plus the Emmy nominations, plus Shane Gillis hosts the ESPYs tonight. So much going on after 2 weeks of nothing. Guys, can we spread the comedy news out, please? And hello, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Let's start with the New York Comedy Festival. As the New York Post put it, comedian Louis C.K. is set to headline 2 nights of the New York Comedy Festival later this year, marking one of his first high-profile stand-up acts since being accused of sexual misconduct by 5 women back in 2017. I'm pretty sure Mr. C.K. admitted to such things. A quote from Louis in the New York Post, "These stories are true." So I don't think they're allegations at that point. At that time, I said to myself what I did was okay because I never showed a woman my thing without asking first, which is also true. The power I had over these women is that they admired me, and I wielded that power irresponsibly. Let me get the lilt out of my voice. So anyway, nobody is really canceled in this world. Caroline Hirsch, who runs the festival, said, "We're thrilled to unveil this year's incredible lineup, a dynamic mix of global headliners and rising voices that reflect where comedy is right now and where it's headed. We're proud to continue to bring in New York City the very best of the best. In a constantly shifting landscape, we stay committed to spotlighting new voices, championing fresh perspectives, breaking form, and shaping a festival that sets the standard both creatively and commercially." Louis will perform his special Ridiculous at the Beacon Theater November 14th and 15th. Also headlining Stephen Colbert, Amy Sedaris, Pete Holmes. Now, I looked at the initial lineup. I'm not blown away here. This feels smaller than it has in the past. Again, we have so much to get to today. Let me go quickly here. Friday, November 7th, Ryan Long and Nurse John. Those are 2 different shows. The show's on Saturday, November 8th at 7 o'clock, a celebration of the 25th anniversary of the cancellation of Strangers with Candy with Stephen Colbert, Paul Dinello, and Amy Sedaris at Town Hall. Okay. Ryan Long, 2 shows, Trevor Wallace and Hannah Berner. Sunday the 9th, Eastmo at Town Hall. Then nothing on the schedule that I'm seeing until Thursday the 13th. Yohai Sponder at Town Hall. Morgan J. and The Basement Yard, which is a podcast, and The Basement Yard is Madison Square Garden. Wow. That Friday, Michael Blackson, Pete Holmes, and Louis C.K. That's Saturday the 15th. Alex Edelman, Michael Blackson, Margaret Cho, C.K., and Chris Fleming. I guess. I imagine they will announce more as we get a little bit closer. That one's in November. So I thought the timing on this was really interesting. Deadline had an exclusive, the Riyadh Comedy Festival. Now, why this really catches my eye is attached to this is Bruce Hills. Now, Bruce is the guy I worked with at Just for Laughs Montreal. Bruce is a good guy. Bruce knows comedy. Bruce knows how to do a comedy festival. I just thought the timing was fascinating. That Deadline had this on Monday, and this is also the week of the return of the Montreal Comedy Festival, which Bruce is no longer attached to. Could be a coincidence, could be some fun jousting. I don't know, just found it interesting. But this Riyadh Comedy Festival taking place in the Saudi capital this fall. Again, I don't know why it had to be announced on Monday, July 14th. Anyway, but listen to these names. Kevin Hart, Tom Segura, Pete Davidson, Russell Peters, Jim Jeffries, Whitney Cummings, Zorna Garg, and Jessica Curson are all, quote, in talks to perform at the inaugural Riyadh Comedy Festival. That in talks is interesting. Again, the Deadline went with this. Makes me think it's quite likely. Deadline says, while no deals have been finalized, reps for WME, which is consulting on the festival, confirmed ongoing discussions with several top-tier acts. Turki Al-Ashiki is the chairman of Saudi Arabia's General Entertainment Authority. In May, Turkey had posted on X, the best 50 stand-up comedians of the world are coming to the Riyadh Comedy Festival from September 26th to October 10th. Deadline reports sources say the festival will feature multi-comic showcases and solo shows. A company called Sella, the largest live events company in the kingdom, will produce alongside Bruce Hills, described in this article as a legendary comedy producer who spent nearly 4 decades at Just for Laughs, helping to turn it into the largest and most prestigious comedy festival in the world. Again, I only have great things to say about Bruce, and I continue to find the timing fascinating. Deadline says a source familiar with comedy touring noted that there's big money to be made by comics in the Middle East, up to millions or tens of millions, depending on the profile of the artist. They said many top stand-ups are happy to be wined and dined by the Saudi government, which has come to recognize the power of comics as the cultural icons of our time. Deadline writes, of course, there were also significant drawbacks, or at least factors to consider in performing in the Middle East. For starters, Saudi Arabia is known for limiting freedom of expression when it comes to the arts, typically dictating on the offer sheet per multiple agents what cannot be said on topics like religion, sex, and the Saudi royal family. Deadline adds, while the kingdom is known for its discrimination against the LGBTQ plus community, sources were particularly curious as to how many female comics will be appearing, given that they'd have to perform under the constraints of Sharia law in a country considered even more conservative than the likes of Abu Dhabi or Dubai. Sources say organizers are currently in talk with Cummings, Garg, and Curson, among others. Hart, Davidson, Segura, Garg, and Curson are all with WME. Sources say it's unclear how many marquee names not rep by WME will make the trek. At least one top comedian that fills arenas has declined to attend. Very, very interesting. I'll do Montreal in the second half of the podcast because I want to talk about the schedule as well. Let's look at the Emmy nominations. Nate Bargatze is the host of the 2025 Emmys, and he also was nominated in the Outstanding Variety Special category. Netflix specials, they include Your Friend Nate Bargatze, Adam Sandler Love You, Ali Wong's Single Lady, Sarah Silverman Postmortem, one I'm going to skip on purpose, come back to, and Hulu's Bill Burr Drop Dead Years. So if the nominees are Bill Burr, Sarah, Ali Wong, Sandler, and Nate Bargatze, out of those, I would pick Adam Sandler, believe it or not. I think that was the best of those specials. However, the one I skipped, and the no way this doesn't win unless you guys are insane, also nominated Conan O'Brien, the Kennedy Center Mark Twain Prize for American Humor. If that doesn't win, I don't know what we're doing. The nominees for Best Comedy Series: Abbott, The Bear, which is not a comedy; Hacks, Nobody Wants This, is an American romantic comedy TV series created by Aaron Foster, starring Kristen Bell, Adam Brody, and some others on Netflix. You learn something new every day. Only Murders, Shrinking, The Studio, and What We Do in the Shadows. If I had to pick, probably Hacks. Best Talk Series. I talked about this before. Only 3 nominees because of the way it works in the math. The nominees are The Daily Show, Kimmel, and Colbert. You got to give that to The Daily Show. Best Actress in a Comedy Series. Uzo Aduba for The Residents, Kristen Bell, Nobody Wants This, Quinta Brunson, Abbott, Ayo Edeberry, The Bear, Gene Smart, Hacks. I would give it to Gene. Best Actor in a Comedy Series: Adam Brody, Nobody Wants This, Seth Rogen, The Studio, Jason Segel, Shrinking, Martin Short, Murders, Jeremy Allen White, The Bear, which is not a comedy. I don't have an opinion there. I will abstain. Best Supporting Actor in a Comedy Series: Ike Barinholtz, The Studio, Coleman Domingo, The Four Seasons, Harrison Ford, Shrinking, Jeff Hiller, Somebody Somewhere, Eben Bacharach, The Bear, which is not a comedy, Michael Urie, Shrinking, and Bowen Yang for SNL. I don't have an opinion. SNL, you can get Best Supporting Actor in a Comedy Series out of SNL? That doesn't seem right. Don't give it to Bowen. Best Supporting Actress in a Comedy Series: Liza Colon-Zayas, The Bear. She's fantastic, but that's not a comedy. Hannah Einbinder, Hacks, Catherine Hahn, The Studio, Janelle James, Abbott, Catherine O'Hara, The Studio, Cheryl Lee Ralph, Abbott, Jessica Williams, Shrinking. I don't have an opinion. Best Guest Actor in a Comedy Series: John Bernthal, The Bear, Bryan Cranston, The Studio, Dave Franco, The Studio, Ron Howard, The Studio, Anthony Mackie, The Studio, Martin Scorsese, The Studio. I would give it to Ron Howard. We'll talk more about The Studio in a second. Best Guest Actress in a Comedy Series: Olivia Colman, The Bear, which is not a comedy; Jamie Lee Curtis, The Bear, which is not a comedy; Cynthia Erivo, Poker Face; Robbie Hoffman, Hacks; Zoe Kravitz, The Studio; Julianne Nicholson, Hacks. I don't have an opinion, but don't give it to anybody from The Bear. Not that it's not a great show, it's just not a comedy. Best Writing for Comedy Series goes to the teams from Abbott, Hacks, The Rehearsal, Somebody Somewhere, The Studio, and What We Do in the Shadows. I kind of like What We Do in the Shadows. Only 2 nominees in Outstanding Scripted Variety. They are SNL and Last Week Tonight. Are we giving it to SNL for the 50th anniversary stuff or for regular SNL? That's my question. I guess it's all one big thing. If it's just for the recent normal season, Last Week Tonight, but if you're going to include all the stuff from the 50th, they're going to give it to SNL. SNL has 31 nominations. And they do indeed include specials like SNL 50, the anniversary special, SNL 50, the homecoming concert, SNL 50 Beyond Saturday Night. Lorne Michaels already held the record for most Emmy nominations for an individual, has added 6 to the count, putting him at 118 nominations total. I'm a 118-time Emmy nominee. Wow. Late Nighter points out that After Midnight, which no longer exists, got a nod for outstanding technical direction and camera work for a series. They had submitted their February 25th, 2025 episode featuring guests Jonah Ray, Kumail Nanjiani, and Emily Gordon for consideration. Okay, this next one I feel really strong about. It's Outstanding Original Music and Lyrics. Two of the nominees are Kristen Wiig and Adam Sandler. Now listen to me. We cannot give Adam Sandler an Emmy for a song. That will encourage him to do more terrible songs, and we can't have that. You guys should have given Adam Sandler the Academy Award for Best Actor for Uncut Gems, which is what he wanted, and then he would have become a dramatic actor and made great movies. Instead, you keep rewarding him for crap, and then we get things like Opera Man. As terrible Adam Sandler songs go, Adam Sandler's song 50 Years from the SNL 50 special wasn't bad in terms of like in the Adam Sandler canon. It was probably one of the better ones, but we absolutely cannot reward Adam Sandler for his musical comedy. No, do not do that. Kristen Wiig has an original song from Will and Harper called Harper and Will Go West. I'm Team Kristen Wiig. All right, The Studio. Now, I watched it. It's fine, but Hollywood loves Hollywood. A lot of buzz from social media, but it all seems to be industry people. I don't see anybody in, like, quote, the real world talking about The Studio, but boy, it received 23 Emmy nominations. That's the most ever for a comedy series in its first season. The New York Times points out John Mulaney did not get any Emmy nominations. Again, you've heard me say many times, love John Mulaney. That late night show did not work. Okay, gang, I may have to double break you today. Here's why. If I don't take the break, the automation forces a break. There's just behind-the-scenes stuff that, like, the commercial break will have to happen. So let me take one here, and I'll come back, and we'll talk about Shane Gillis. Shane Gillis hosts the ESPY Awards tonight. He was on Jimmy Kimmel on Monday night. Now, for some reason, Chris DiStefano is guest hosting Jimmy Kimmel Live. Why? I don't know either, and I'm being facetious. I think I figured it out. Chris DiStefano, repped by WME. Jimmy Kimmel, repped by, say it with me, everybody on three. 1, 2, 3, WME. Listen, that's how Hollywood works. Anytime anything doesn't make sense, look at the agents, and that will always tell you what is going on there. So somebody's doing somebody a favor, because Chris DiStefano hosting a late night talk show? Yeah? Okay. Anyway, Shane Gillis was the guest, and let's listen.
I'm excited about it. I still got a lot of work to do. I got to figure it out.
Dude, the jokes were killing.
The jokes are I've never done a thing where somebody else is writing like jokes, and they hired writers, and they're like, here's the jokes and they're like self-deprecating for me. So like I'll be at home, I'll get an email, and it's like, hey, I'm Shane. I'm hosting the 33rd ESPY Awards. I'm a big fat dumbass. And you're like, wait, who wrote this? Which one of you guys wrote that one? I'm not saying that.
The ESPYs air live tonight from the Dolby Theater in Los Angeles at 8 p.m. Eastern and Pacific. Stream live on ESPN+. If you've cut the cord like me, you can either visit your friend who lives on the ship, if you know what I mean, or it'll be on Hulu tomorrow. This is the 33rd annual ESPYs. Some of the categories: Best Athlete Men's Sports. Your nominees: Josh Allen from the Bills, Saquon Barkley from the Eagles, SGA from the Thunder, or Tani from the LA Dodgers. Boy, that's tough. This thing's in LA, right? Give it to Shohei. Best team. How about this? The Florida Panthers. All right, they've won 2 in a row. The Dodgers, the Ohio State Buckeyes, the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Philadelphia Eagles, the North Carolina Tar Heels women's lacrosse team, or the U.S. women's national soccer team, or the University of Connecticut Huskies women basketball team. Who are you picking there? Best NFL player: Josh Allen, Saquon Barkley, Lamar Jackson from the Ravens, Patrick Surtain from the Broncos. Got to give that to Saquon. Best baseball player: Freddie Freeman, Aaron Judge, Shohei, Tariq Skubal. You got to give it to Shohei. And I'm going to take another break here. I feel you. I know it's annoying, but if I don't, I'm telling you, just the way the system works, because I'm doing a long show today, if I don't, it's going to drop a commercial break mid-sentence. So I'd rather properly place the break than have it drop in mid-sentence, because that's a major pet peeve of mine. Don't forget, if you would like the show without any commercial interruptions, you can go to calaroga.com/plus, or if you're on Apple Podcasts, click the banner that says uninterrupted listening. $5 a month, you'll get this show and a bunch of others, including 5 Good News Stories, which I host 3 days a week. I mean, the show only comes out 3 days a week, and I always host it. I'm making it sound like somebody else, like Chris DiStefano does it on Tuesdays. No. That would be insane. We don't have the same agent. I'll give you a little behind the scenes here. So normally I record the show in the early afternoon. Right now it's 7:26 p.m. Why? Because I went to the beach all day, and then I was like, all right, I'll do the show when I get home. And oh my goodness, my kids will not stop texting me, but I can't get mad. I can't be like, first of all, you don't want to it's nice that your kids want to check in with you, but also you can't be like, I'm recording my podcast. You sound like a jerk. Anyway, click the banner that says uninterrupted listening, and you get the show commercial free. One more break, and then we'll talk Montreal. Just for Laughs, Montreal Comedy Festival is back, baby. I got my note yesterday. They gave me credentials. Planning on heading up there at some point. That should be a lot of fun. Deadline has that new podcast where they talk about comedy. I didn't bring my phone down. Oh, no, here's my phone. Let me tell you what that's called. Found it. It is Deadline's Comedy Means Business. The other day they had on Sylvain Bedard. He's the new boss at the reconstituted Just for Laughs. He says they've sold over 100,000 tickets. Think about that number. That's a lot of tickets for the upcoming festival, and said that the festival will not lose money this year. He already knows that and says it's the first step in his grand vision for the festival. A touring agent told Deadline, it's more than a transition. It's like a rebirth, right? I think as an industry of reps, we all want it to be there, and I think cautious optimism right now would probably be the overwhelming sentiment. A manager told Deadline she'd heard mixed things about how people are feeling going into this year. A good amount of enthusiasm, a little skepticism. But I don't think anyone's rooting against the festival. I think we all want it to succeed because at the end of the day, it's a great avenue for clients to get discovered. How noble of you. Yeah, we don't want the festival to fail because we can make money off it. Here's some quotage a manager gave to Deadline, calling it Zombie JFL Back from the Dead. I think I've used those exact words in different combinations. That manager said breaking out of JFL's new faces used to mean comics would be a thing forever, but that's no longer reliably the case. They said that is a historic lack of digital strategy on JFL's part. Now, if you listen to the Deadline podcast, they got into the digital strategy, and it sounds like they have a really good plan for it this year. I mean, I've been involved in comedy for 20 years. I don't know. I kind of reject what that manager is saying. I think new faces is a good thing and still means something. Now, interesting to me, we haven't seen the list yet. I'm surprised that's not out yet. I was kind of expecting that to come out on Monday. It was clearly this close that people must be solidified on the lineup, but we haven't seen a list yet. Now, that manager tells Deadline they predict companies will send, quote, less people to cover the festival than in the past between slashed travel budgets and uncertainty. That same person said, some of my greatest acts were definitely helped by Just for Laughs. I think the power of new faces isn't as big as it used to be, but I still think it's a nice notch on your belt and a credit that people still value. I like those guys at JFL, and I think they've been able to showcase talent incredibly well. One manager said the success of this year's festival will be reflected in people talking about it afterwards, new faces walking out with new representation, conversation. Yeah, I think that's fair. The manager says, you look at Netflix as a joke, and those new face introducing people are getting somewhere between 10 to 100,000 views on their YouTube channels. I'm curious to see what JFL's views look like. Also fair. Ryan Reynolds and Rob Mack, they're going to be at Just for Laughs. They're going to receive the Generation Award. Also getting an award is George Wallace. His award will be presented by Roy Wood Jr. Roy will present George Wallace with a Lifetime Achievement Award. Benito Skinner, known for his online persona Benny Drama, will receive a Breakout Comedy Star of the Year prize from Mary Beth Barone. The Rising Comedy Star of the Year award will go to Hannah Berner. Is Hannah rising? She's got a huge podcast, but okay. All right, let's look at the lineup. Starting tonight, a few French shows early in the evening. At 7 o'clock, the Just for the Laughs Culture Show. That used to be the Ethnic Show. That's at Club Soda, good club. Boy, a whole lot of French shows tonight. I think that's great. 9:30, the Nasty Show, also at Club Soda. So, that's kind of how I would roll. If I were up there tonight, I would just head over to Club Soda and do the back-to-back and get home at 11:30 and go to bed and record a podcast. So those are the two English shows tonight, but I skipped maybe 12, 13 French language shows. Again, week one, the Wednesday night, this thing will totally pick up. So don't judge the festival by tonight's lineup. That's just the first night. The head of programming is Nick Brizeo. He's worked for JFL for 16 years. He used to report to Robbie Pra, who went on to head Netflix's live comedy division. Nick says, I gave up stand-up to get on the production side to get a closer connection to the world-class comedy scene, and that satisfies a lot of the reasoning I got into comedy in the first place. Nick said about 15 months ago, there was concern that Just for Laughs could disappear, but the opportunity to bring everything back has been so uplifting. So many great memories have been made over the 4 decades the festival has been around. Now we have the opportunity to make more. Here's Nick's 8 picks for the festival. Number 1, Che Darina, host of The Nasty Show. Che is a viral Canadian comedy sensation with over 8 million followers on social media platforms. Number 2, Asif Ali, host of The Culture Show. 3, Nick Mohammed. You know Nick Mohammed from Ted Lasso. Okay, not a bad pick. Nick will be doing a 75-minute show. Number 4, Mary Beth Barone, one of the stars and writers of Overcompensating and a repeat guest on Jimmy Fallon. This marks her first performance in Montreal, but definitely not her last. Yes, I could see her breaking out. That's a good one. Number 5, Stamptown, July 23rd through the 25th at Club Soda, a full-on fevered show hosted by the unforgettable Zach Zucker and featuring some of the most energetic over-the-top comics from around the world. It is totally bananas, raunchy, and chaotic. Past shows have included the likes of Neil Patrick Harris, Richard Kind, Mae Martin, David Cross, and Sarah Sherman. That's awesome. 6, Rhys Darby. You know him. A legend indeed is this comic from New Zealand who cracked up audiences big time in Flight of the Conchords. An unbelievable talent. He's unique and a delight. 7, Kat Cohen, U.S.-based but known around the world for festival and TV appearances, as well as her 2 Netflix specials. And number 8, Andrea Jin is a featured performer at The Culture Show. Originally from Shanghai, she grew up in Vancouver and is now based in L.A. and is a former new face of comedy. I've got more. We're not done yet. All right, so don't get mad at that second commercial break there. We're jam-packed today. Out today on YouTube, Luke Heggie, Have That, Comedy Exports. YouTube premiere at 5 p.m. Central, 8 a.m. AEST. I'm pretty sure that's Australian time. All right, so that's one to check out. And then this has come to my attention. I don't know anything about it, but apparently this exists. Okay, you ready? You're not ready for this. Sean Hannity and Jimmy Fallon have a comedy special on Fox Nation. Now, the good news is it's on Fox Nation, so almost nobody will see it. Whew. A Sean Hannity comedy special? If we weren't over a half hour into the show, I would do 10 minutes on this. I can't think of anybody, and I've met the guy, I can't think of anybody less funny than Sean Hannity. I looked for clips, haven't found clips. Again, busy show. I didn't dig that hard. All I can tell you is the description is it was a night of liberty, laughs, and a whole lot of winning, only on Fox Nation. So if you're like, boy, a Sean Hannity comedy special, Fox Nation. And also, we cannot ignore Elmo on The Daily Show. Jon Stewart told Daily Show viewers Monday night that his original well-designed, articulate episode had to be scrapped because Elmo had lost his bleeping mind. I don't know if you saw the Elmo Twitter account was presumably hacked. Some very, very terrible things came out of that account. Jon Stewart said, "This is what happens when you go too long without tickling Elmo." Elmo was the guest on The Daily Show. Elmo admitted, "I'm not going to do a half-ass Elmo here." Jon Stewart did in the bit. Elmo wasn't hacked. It was Elmo, but Elmo was radicalized by the manosphere. Elmo is part of the male loneliness epidemic. You see, what happened was Elmo was doing his own research on flu shots. 6 hours later, because of the algorithm, Elmo was moderating the QAnon Discord chat and building homemade bombs. Jon Stewart told Elmo, "Don't blame the algorithm." Elmo said, "Are you canceling Elmo?" Once again, the so-called tolerant left policing speech that's inconvenient to their woke dogma. Who's the real puppet now, John? Oh boy, and that is a very long episode of Daily Comedy News for today. Now, tomorrow is all the stuff that I didn't even put in today's show. I could record tomorrow right now and do 20 minutes, but I'm not going to because I'm tired. See you tomorrow.